Ladies and gentlemen, it is Friday night, 7 p.m. Pacific time, and this is Pixels, Plastic, and Ink. Thanks for tuning in, and it is the Dark Knight Friday. Gentlemen, I was gonna get all makeup up, and I was gonna go like, where do they get a load of me? But I thought it would be too embarrassing. But I am excited, man. Batman is my all-time favorite character. I don't know how you all feel, and
Oh
we
yeah.
get to talk a lot about the Dark Knight, Batman himself, tonight on this episode. Before I jump into the agenda, how are you all feeling about the Dark Knight, Batman, Bruce Wayne himself?
Well, I know we're going to do it just like DC Comics, all Batman, all night. Wait a minute, they publish other books in that, right? Okay, yeah. But tonight we're going to
Not
do
if you
DC
check the
Comics.
shelves.
Yeah, we're at least doing half of the show, so that's like 6 books worth of Batman. Got it, man. Got it.
Okay. Well, we're going to start off with a couple of different TV series, films that are coming out in the Batman universe. Our thoughts on the Penguin, Colin Farrell's Penguin, hitting Max, HBO Max. How's that going to do? And then a new animated feature, Caped Crusader, another Batman animated film, TV series. I'm excited about that. Then we will rank the best Batman films. Oh boy, tons of them, some duds. What will be number one? You may be surprised. Then we're going to jump into our plastic talk, and we're going to talk about San Diego Comic Con. There's a bunch of announcements, exclusives. You got to be there to pick up these toys. That's strange. They used to be San Diego Comic Con. They went away from that, and now you got to be in person. What's that going to do to toy collecting industry? And then lastly, the return of Hall H. For those of you familiar with Comic Con, that's been kind of a dud for many years. And all of a sudden, Hall H is back. And who's showing up? We'll talk about that and a lot more. It's Dark Knight Friday. This is Pixels, Plastic, and Ink.
I'm Batman.
Oh man, that gets me hyped up. I want to put on the suit and get on the bat cycle and go to work and uh, see if I can't solve some crimes. But before we jump into it, I gotta say we're gonna go off topic here. Who's the best Bruce Wayne of all time?
Bruce
What
Wayne.
actor? Bruce Wayne.
Okay.
Who's the best
Okay.
Bruce Wayne actor? Let's jump into the Dark Knight. Let's get into it.
All
What
right.
are your thoughts?
I'm gonna say probably Ben Affleck. I thought he was a more hardened,
Ooh.
seasoned. Kind of reminds me of the Dark Knight Returns kind of version, where he no longer has trust in the people around him, and he feels like he needs to take things more in hand. He's very brutal with people. So I thought he did a very good job as Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, I think Michael Keaton and maybe Christian Bale. That's,
Hmm.
about that same level. But Ben Affleck was great.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought Christian Bale did a really great job in playing more of the tormented Bruce Wayne. And part
Hmm.
of it is obviously the storytelling in Nolan's films, but there was something deep down inside embedded that you got a sense of he's this billionaire, playboy, mogul, but then he's got some problems in his head. And I think that he played that way better than, in my opinion, Affleck or Keaton or anybody else did. Um, but yeah, hey, if you have any thoughts, chat, jump in the comments. Leave a comment if you're watching this post live. Who is the best Bruce Wayne of all time? And before we jump into the next topic, I just want everyone to click subscribe, like. It only helps the channel grow. We appreciate your support. So first off, the Penguin.
Yeah.
I was surprised that this actually got its own feature. I think he did a really good job.
You did.
But are you all surprised that the Penguin is like the first post the Batman franchise to get his own?
Well, they were talking about it since the movie came out. They've been planning this for a long time, and I think that was part of doing the movie. They were like, and we are going to have Colin Farrell in this small role, but we can make it into a mini series. And we've got this great actor. We've sort of worked out the story, and boom, here it is. Looks cool. He was great in that role. I think, in fact, he was the best thing of that movie.
Yeah. Yeah, his acting was fantastic. The makeup was even better. I know we had Gotham a couple of years ago that they had on television, and so I feel like it's retreading, but it's retreading in a way where I think it's going to be more of like, this is the definitive version that like an HBO would kind of put on, even though it's on Max, but like The Sopranos and things. I don't think we're going to get like the cookie cutter version of the show. I think it's going to be hard as brutal. It's not going to be, look, everybody's going to expect to see when Batman's going to show up. But, I think Colin Farrell can capture an audience for an hour TV show every week and make it riveting as long as the writing's right. And so far, I have trust in Matt Reeves and the universe that he's created for the gangsters that are going through Gotham City. So I'm looking forward to this series.
Do you think there's something I almost wish, like, I don't know if it's ever been done before, and perhaps we'll see this because I don't know, like with Joaquin Phoenix in the Joker film, if his character will inevitably then transition into whatever the new Batman thing is, or that's separate. But do you think it would be, like it'd be cool to have the Penguin film before Batman to like build up the bad guy first? Has that ever been done? It's always been kind of, you get the superhero first, because if this movie's better than the Batman, there could be a case of, because all things are pointing towards this could be better, right? Like this could be darker. It's got a great actor. The trailer looks really good, but I'm wondering, like, future state, if anybody started like that. It doesn't always have to be Superman first or Batman. Mate, tell the story of a villain, and then get us interested, and then introduced, the main character, the hero, and then it means more, versus trying to build a villain into a plot that you're still trying to build the hero's character, if that makes sense.
Well, that's a good way to go, actually, for DC or Marvel. If you're listening, that would be a cool thing. Like if they had done that with Black Adam, and then done Shazam afterwards, and they were connected, that could have been really cool because they had great actors for both of those roles. I think they just screwed up Black Adam and Shazam too.
Yeah, no, I think as the luxury that you have when you're going into a series like this, you have the opportunity to develop characters more than you can't in the actual 2 hour or hour and a half film and everything. So I think there's going to be a lot of groundwork. I think that you can get a chance. There's enough material within the DC universe in order for you to get backstories and situations that we know we've seen the Iceberg Lounge that he owns, and we're seeing right now at the end of Matt Reeves' story that everything changes for him. So I think it's very smart to build this in a way, because he wasn't typically the villain that we would think we would see in this. Everybody's always predicting that it would be another Joker, or they couldn't quite use someone like the Penguin. But I thought Reeves did a great job at the introduction of the character, and if anything, he stole the performance in the Batman. So, you have an actor that can really act. Colin Farrell, say what you want to say. This man knows how to act. And I think he's going to pull that all that talent. And I think he also enjoyed. I think there's a little bit of Heath Ledger in there too, because it seemed like he really got into that character. Because you didn't know where he looks almost unrecognizable. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good series. I'm glad that it's on like Max. I think we're going to get something that's going to be a little bit more mature than the standard Batman thing, but it's not going to go too far over, because they do want to keep it in the same tone as the rating for the film,
Yeah.
And they can do an interesting thing with the story. Either
Mm-hmm.
make it set before the film,
Yeah.
and so you can explore, what just regular Gotham was like, or if you have it set after the film, you can explore what has happened since all, the dam flooded and everything went to hell in Gotham, because that could be picking up the pieces and setting up the next Batman film.
Yeah.
And let's
100%.
say hello to the
Hey,
chat.
do it. Welcome.
Hey.
Welcome.
How you doing? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I agree. Will they ever get Mr. Freeze right?
I
That
hope
is a
so.
character that has not been translated well in any form or fashion, and it's
I beg
what are we
to,
talking
I
about?
disagree with
The
you.
animated series.
Animated.
Okay,
The
we're
animated,
talking
yeah.
about live
Yeah.
action.
Okay,
I get
no,
it.
not live action, but
Not
the
live
animated
action.
series. If you're gonna take something to take some material from and develop this. Look, I would love to see what Matt Reeves could do with that version as well. But live action wise, no. I think we have two representations. One from the '60s show, if that I remember, I think it was briefly, and then one from obviously Arnold Schwarzenegger's on-screen appearance as well.
That never happened.
Oh, wait a minute,
I
somebody's
refuse.
screen us.
I
Don't you do it?
I
Oh, did
refuse to talk
a great
about that.
job, Chill.
Never
Okay,
happened.
okay.
It was erased from my memory. The Men in Black, they came and they said this never happened.
That's why
Yeah,
we love the chat.
I'm excited about the Penguin, and
Yeah.
HBO Max usually turns in some really great films, TV series.
True.
Another one that's coming to Amazon Prime is an animated Batman, the Caped Crusader cartoon. I saw the trailer. Animation looks really cool. What are your thoughts on this? Could this be a home run in the animated genre for The Dark Knight?
Dr. Brent, I'll let you go first on this one.
Because yes, Bruce Timm is one of the people behind it. He did the animated series. He's the best guy. Him and Alan Burnett are the best guys to have done Batman, I think. And the animation looked cool, and it was different, sort of the look of Alfred and Commissioner Gordon and all the people. But Batman did have that kind of a cool classic look to him. So I'm actually very excited to see it. Looks nice.
I'll tell you what it was absolutely shocking and surprising. I didn't know, first of all, at one point we were told that Warner Bros. Was going to shelf this. And then when it said, hey, they were looking for an outside partner and they got it within Amazon, great move by Amazon. Very bad move by Warner Brothers, because I think that this is going to be a bigger series and you're just giving something over to Amazon and some more views, when obviously with the things that's been going on at Warner's, they could use it there. But the designs it has a Batman animated feel to it, like the original series, yet its own. So it's not like they're just repeating something and they're just doing it over. No, it has its shape and tone, same kind of like Gotham Noir kind of scenario. But I like the look of the characters. I like the voice actors that were involved in it. I think they have an opportunity here to gain a new bunch of fans, whether it's because Amazon, HBO Max. I think the one good thing about it being on Prime, I think Prime may get it more eyes maybe than, because there's some people I know that just don't have Max. And I think that if anyone else in the country is running something, if you just have the delivery service for Amazon, you have their television service. So I think it's absolutely going to be one of those series that people are going to be talking about instantaneously the next night that it's off, and that next all the chats, I'm to check YouTube, check Instagram, check all those places, because everyone's going to be talking about this. And again, Dr. Brentley said it right. Bruce Timm is the magic formula in the show.
Yeah, and I'm happy that this continued animation of Batman. I think they know that these things have worked. If there's a character that's done really well translated to animation, it's definitely Batman. It's kind of like Batman and Spider-Man. It's like those two are competing, Marvel DC universe, who's going to be the best animated feature. So
also to the chat, thank you sir, for the compliment. We appreciate that.
Okay, well, moving on to one of our featured topics of the evening in the Dark Knight Friday universe, and that is ranking the best Batman films. So it's probably pretty easy, I assume.
It's never easy.
Of like of the five, I would imagine, but ranking them amongst each other is probably going to be harder to choose.
Sure.
So let's maybe collaborate and figure out the upper echelon, the five of Batman films, and we're also including the animated features. We have to do any animated films, and we'll go from there. And if there's some disagreements, we can have that conversation, and then we'll jump into ranking the top five. So I'll go first. I think it's clear as day. The Dark Knight belongs in the top five, right?
Obviously.
No arguments.
No,
you get kicked out of the studio. You'll never make the podcast again.
If you see somebody drop the screen, we just they made the wrong choice.
Yeah. Okay.
So say the Dark Knight.
So we've got the Dark Knight here for sure. Okay, what are the other four? Julian, Dr. Brantley, what's your next?
Batman 89.
Yep.
Okay.
Actually, I actually like Batman Returns a little bit better than that, though.
Yeah, well, that's while I love the Batman Returns, that is probably the most universally panned version next to the Schumachers is the Return. A lot of people do not like the Return. I've had a lot of people like, no, they thought it was like the 89 holds a dear spot in their heart, but somehow there's either I know people that like it or people that hate it. I've never heard anybody say that about 89's version, though. That's usually universally panned as one of the better ones. If I'll throw in one that's probably not, and if you haven't seen it, it deserves to be watched and everything, but it's one of my favorite versions of the show since the Dark Knight's already been picked. Batman Under the Red Hood. Probably one of the best animated versions of that show or of the movies. Yet it tells a storyline that we haven't seen brought to the screen. So every time I see it, every time it's on, I enjoy watching it, and it's usually one of the better of the animated films.
I don't know if that and Returns belongs in my top five, and I'm happy to have the discussion. I think it's clear 89 and Dark Knight are definitely in those two. I'm going to say Mask of the Phantasm is in the top five for me. And I would have to say Batman Begins is in that five for me too. So again, happy to have discussion or argument, but is there any consensus on Mask of the Phantasm or
the only reason why I didn't say Mask of the Phantasm, to be quite honest with you, is that usually Mask of the Phantasm is just a slower burn film. I think it's good. I saw it in the theater. It's one of my favorites, but I thought that Under the Red Hood moved quicker, and it wasn't a section of Batman's storyline. Like we've always seen his origin story. Phantasm added a little bit more, but the different Robins, the approaches, the uses of Ra's al Ghul. I would say that it's more of a Phantasm's origin story. Red Hood is an action revenge story. Those are the only two differences. But I could love it both ways. Phantasm's in, and it's not. I'm great with that being in top five as well.
And what about Batman Begins? Where do you place that? Is that outside your top five, or would you consider that a top five Batman film?
I think if it's kind of tough because I do think that that's probably a lot of people's favorite version of the of the Batman because it introduces the character extremely well. But I'm torn because it's different. Like I really thought Matt Reeves did a pretty decent job of introducing his Batman and just kicking it off. I think there was a little bit of a different burn. And oh, you don't like the opening sequence in the Batman? No, I'm not talking about.
There's a couple of scenes in the Batman.
Yeah,
that
I think he does.
I think he screwed up the whole character.
I think he said. Well, I think the detective version wise he did, but I think he sets the tone extremely early. And I think also same thing. But in that case too, I don't know. It's between that Batman Begins, the Batman, and then probably Batman Returns. Those are the three for me. That would be hard to pick between.
Like Dark Knight Rises very much, because I remember after seeing it, it was one of the most epic movies I had seen in a theater because it's just so big on every level. And that's, Chris Nolan getting pretty much as much money as he wants after, blowing everything up with The Dark Knight. They're like, here, tons of money, do what you want. And it was massive. Now, it wasn't quite as well, I guess maybe not as superhero and crowd pleasing as Batman Begins, but I thought it was a great movie.
My complaint with that film, I'm going to be picky here, is I know they had to go and redub it. Is like his voice, I still couldn't.
You got a problem with me?
I couldn't take it. Take it. And like, it's not like I can't watch it, but I only wish if they went back and said, dude, like that's a funky voice. I get it. Like, but we got to change it. We got to make it more menacing.
Well,
but that was very animated, like for that film. Might as well put Skeletor voice in there if you like. It felt the same.
I'll get you, Batman.
Yeah, like it's. I mean, we're only a couple little lower than a bit, and we're at Skeletor. So that was my complaint about that film.
Yeah, and I thought and it's probably going to be controversial, and I'm glad to go down the controversial route. It was probably my least favorite Christopher Nolan film that he's ever done. I just did not enjoy it. I thought he hashed a lot of stuff. Let's put it like this. Yeah, more than Tenet. I think that because the Tenet I had no expectation for. When I was like,
I defy you to tell me what happened in that movie.
That's exactly why I had no expectation, because the trailer moved for the Tenet was like, okay, this is there's every now and then you have a hit film and then you do something like the Tenet, and then people are like, well, maybe he's not as talented as he thinks he is. It just rolls in there. But there was expectation going into The Dark Knight Rises, and it just didn't meet it. I thought that they give it a little corniness. Oh, he's gone, and yet he's probably sitting on an island somewhere. Sakine, they just did so many, just like tie-ups. You had the whole Robin, is he not kind of Robin kind of scenario. I just thought it wasn't that story. Maybe this is story, not so much from the directing. I just think that story wasn't one of the better stories, and I think it didn't tie up anything extremely well.
Well, for those of you who are listening right now, if you have any comments, if we're way off base, if we missed it, drop it in the comment. Again, please subscribe, like the channel, helps the channel grow. We appreciate your viewership. So it sounds like we have a consensus, at least number one, which is The Dark Knight.
Yes.
Any arguments to that? Number one. Number two, I think 89. Any arguments on that being anything better than
I'm okay with that
being number two? No. Okay, Dark Knight, 89. We're stuck at 3 here.
Begins.
What falls in 3? Begins.
I think Mask of the Phantasm goes to 3. If I had the 3, I would do Mask of the Phantasm.
I mean, you complained about the pace of it. Batman Begins.
I did, but
a lot better.
But here's the point: all the other paces of the Dark Knight moves kind of slow too. So it's like we're going purely on base and everything. This is Rises as one of the best versions of Bane so far. Well, okay, well, Scott,
Thank you, Scott.
Okay, so Phantasm or Begins, 3 or 4, but I think we could settle that those are So now
Yeah.
we're stuck with what's the fifth? Who makes it in the final five? We've heard Dark Knight Rises. Any
So Batman
arguments for
Begins.
anything else other than Dark Knight Rises? Is the Batman in there? Any of the Zack Snyder stuff? Even the
No.
no, nothing. Okay.
No, I don't think
Even
Snyder
the
actually.
7-hour one that he did. No takers on.
Well, that was it's one part is really not one of its films. If you're talking about like his best Batman cameos or something, maybe that works. But yeah, I think look, I would have loved to see the version that Ben Affleck had, especially with Deathstroke and everything. I would have loved to see that make its way to screen. We just weren't able to see that, so we're stuck with what we were stuck with those. But I'll take Returns over Begins. Just personally for me, I'll take Returns over Begins. First of all, it's the last time we see Keaton on screen as a character until we see him in the Flash, technically. But I thought they just did a really interesting way.
The last time we see him.
Yeah, well, believe me, if you haven't seen the Flash now, you're never going to see it. But I think it had one of the better endings to a Batman film. There are always moments and everything, but I did like the way that if you like the Nolan films, Returns ramps up the violence compared to the first movie. There is a plethora of violent scenarios that happen, and so it's like two different versions of it. And plus, I love any movie that spoiled McDonald's Happy Meal rollout.
Yeah, I miss those days, man. I miss those days. Okay, so are we saying then, if what I'm hearing right is the Dark Knight, number 1, Batman 89, number 2, Phantasm, number 3, number 4 is Returns, and number 5 is Begins? Is that what I'm hearing? Did I miss anything? What about the Lego Batman movie? Is that a Batman movie?
Oh, that was really good.
They are in it. I wouldn't put any of them in the top.
It's not a Batman
top 5.
movie. And technically,
yes,
it is. So
it's actually, I think it's one of the best Batman movies because it dealt with all of the character, like every single character that's ever been in Batman comic is in that movie.
Might have to start putting a little disclaimer on the screen that Dr. Brintley was drinking before the cast.
I'm actually stone cold sober, so
no, did pour yourself a drink, sir, so you can start seeing things clearly.
Now
that's my.
It sounds like we got our top 5 just for.
We got a top 5
just for capes and giggles. Dark Knight Returns animated part 1 and 2. Any thoughts?
You know what? I will. I thought that was a good
movie?
series.
Would we could categorize as a movie? I mean, how long?
Well,
was
the animated movie. Yeah, they did part 1.
Yeah, it was Peter Weller was Batman. It was great.
He was.
Yeah,
he was. Yeah. No. I can't disagree with Scott either. That was
very good adaptation.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's top 5, but it was definitely good.
No,
that's definitely.
But I think it still. I think it could be put in top 10.
Yeah. It's almost like every creator that wants to take over a Batman franchise universe wants to do the Dark Knight properly. Wasn't that Snyder's vision to do that? And obviously we see how things worked out, but I don't know. Is James Gunn, what's he going to do with this character? Any thoughts on Batman and his universe?
We're going to pray that he does something right. That's what we're going to pray on.
I saw the Superman photos. That suit, I'm starting to question some things.
Well,
already.
Suits I don't always think make the make or break the character, because there've been some interesting suits in the time, but it all depends on if the story's going to be good, if they're going to capture it. I think the only thing for me that has me worried is there's too many characters involved, and when you have everybody from Mr. Terrific to Green Lantern to these other characters. I understand you're trying to establish the world, but you don't do that with a Batman movie or a Superman movie. I think you focus on the new version of Superman and Lois and building up all the other scenarios. So that's what has me worried, because that's an awful lot of characters to kind of throw on the screen.
Yeah,
I really think they're just going to use them as little background bits to flesh out that this is the full-fledged DC universe all the heroes are here in some form, and these are the ones you just happen to see through this story. And surprisingly, Batman is like the only character that has not been cast and is in this movie.
Well, or at least they haven't told us they casted him.
Yeah.
We shall
I think
see.
they're probably waiting. It's like, well, let's see how this does, and then we know if we can actually do what we want, or we have to hire someone really big to be Batman. You know.
Well, here's the thing too. I remember. I think you and I were talking about this one aspect, Dr. Brentley, is that there might not even be a chance for Snyder to, or for Gunn, for Gunn to even do the next round of films, because with the problems that we've been seeing out of everything that's going on through Warner Brothers, and they're saying that there may be a sale as well, and same thing like Paramount. Maybe Superman's the make or break one, and they might abandon that, because the one thing that we've seen Warner Discovery do is they don't mind burying something or not doing it extremely quick in the process. So we might not even get a chance. I think the entire James Gunn runs depends on what happens with Superman.
Yeah,
So as I
if
was
it
saying,
fails, it's over.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. Just as long as there's no nipple suit for the Superman character, that's all. If Mr. Chet Maddox would hear, he'd be commenting on.
Oh, he
the
would be.
Batman
be.
nipple suit. So,
But
just
you know
for
what
Caped,
sucks is that he owns those figures from
oh yeah, he
from
collects the
McFarlane.
nipple suit figures. Yeah, so as much as he says he doesn't like them, he collects them. Yeah, I mean, I got damn near 15 Batman action figures, and none of them
Oh,
were
yeah.
nipple suits. So I'm proud to say no nipple suits in the house. Worst Batman film of all time. Just so we're on the topic, what's the worst ever?
Ooh.
Well, it's either Batman and Robin, or possibly Batman 66. I did
I'm
not
thinking
like
about
that.
Thought you were just going to say Batman and Robin double. It's like Batman and Robin and Batman and Robin.
So does that mean
Forever
Clooney's
is
the
not
worst
good
Batman?
either. I really hated that.
Is Clooney the worst Batman too? If you're going to say that Batman and Robin was also the
Well,
worst
let's put it like this: his performance in the Flash was better than his actual time. That 30 seconds he did the Flash was the best Batman acting I've seen him do. So that goes to tell you what it was. No, I think that movie was. Look, first of all, I'm not. I think we put a lot of blame on Clooney, and I think that's unfair, because he had a circumstance of following a guy that didn't come back for the role. And this was within a certain amount, less than a decade, the third Batman that we saw. That's the whole reason why we didn't see Christian Bale become Batman, because they had to kick that can down the road enough so people could get the bad taste out of that, because it's just one Batman after another Batman after another Batman. And he had two different directors from that time, Burton and then Schumacher. So I don't really put the iotas on George Clooney. I don't think he helped himself, but I think it's just that's a lot to ask somebody to step into that franchise.
But it wasn't his fault, because
No.
Schumacher was the one that made that movie, approved this script. And Warner Brothers has a huge blame as well.
Dr. Brentley, he is his fault, because he read that script and he still did that performance.
Oh, he might not.
He could have rejected it.
No, see, that Batman is the kind of thing where you accept the role and then they show you the script, and you're like, oh shit.
It could have been like, I pulled a bad Achilles. I can't do this movie.
on the Dark Knight theme, I just have to get your take, because Dr. Brantley, you said the Dark Knight Rises you actually liked that film. What did you think of the end sequence with the reveal of Robin? In a sense, was that like, that's awesome, or was that like, really that's how you're kind of ending it? You're ending it.
No, I enjoyed
disappointed it didn't carry on in the Nolanverse with him.
I mean, it's the whole thing is just like, this will continue. There will always be a protector of Gotham, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So, and just the way they did it was, the first movie, it's how he starts this whole thing. The second movie is the middle of all the craziness. The last one is the end of Batman, but also, as he's coming up again.
This one's for Mr. Rad on the screen.
Do it, yeah. It is the Star Wars pinball, my friend. Yeah. So it's the pre-podcast entertainment that I have in the background.
Yeah, especially he says the Sweet Terminator one, but yeah,
Oh yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Well, any last thoughts on the Dark Knight and the Batman movies? We got it. We narrowed it down, the top 5 in our opinion. And feel free, drop any comments if you think we're wrong. But it is the Dark Knight, Heath Ledger, Christian Bale, Nolan making the best film of all time, Batman 89, Mr. Keaton himself, Tim Burton, and then the animated feature film of Mask of a Phantasm. If you haven't seen it, that's a lot of younger generation haven't quite caught on to that. I definitely recommend it if you're a younger viewer. And then we said it was Batman Returns, and Begins, or round out the 5. And the worst is Batman and Robin. So if you're bored and you want to see what we think is the worst Batman ever to be filmed, if you got an hour and 50 minutes of time you want to waste, there you go. So,
and
any last
I will say, Mask of the Phantasm is a good one if you want to try and introduce like your girlfriend into the movie, because it has a great love story that's surrounding the whole thing. It's a good way to get into what Batman is if you have no knowledge.
I definitely agree. I actually saw that film, and that was a date night film. And well, I had that relationship for a while, but then we won't talk about what actually did that. It wasn't Mask of the Phantasm that did that. Oh, wait a minute. Now, you know what? He does have a very interesting point on this. I will give him. I did not. I
will Killing joke out of my mind.
He does have a point.
We may have to backtrack.
We might now, because I forgot about that. Thank you, Scott. I did forget about that. Wow. He is. Ooh.
That's sad though, because that deserved to be done correctly.
All you had to do was the comic book. It's not difficult. These adaptations, they do all this crazy stuff. It's like, no, there's a reason this was so popular. Do the story, flesh it out a little bit, but you don't stray too far away. There was, I don't know, maybe 15-20% of the Killing Joke in the Killing Joke. So that's why bother doing it.
Well, it's kind of like they've done that a couple of times as well, because I remember they did that through Batman Hush, and I was a little disappointed. I'm like, well, this is not Batman Hush, the storyline. So, I understand that they take a little liberties when they're doing the animated films, and there's a reason for it. Maybe they don't want to pay the creators completely. I don't know. It could be the Alan Moore thing, but yeah, he's right. I was left scratched and disappointed by them, because I thought, okay, animated version. Well, all you got to do is animate it right, but I totally made a mistake, because you have to animate it right and write it right. So that's
and you even got Mark Hamill back for the Joker. Wow, so it's like you were teed up to have a home run, and you just whiffed it. Whoosh.
Yeah. Do you think they've ever done the detective version of Batman right in films?
No,
not yet.
Right? You've kind of missed that. And I'm wondering, like, does that need to be told in a series format? Will Batman ever be a TV series?
Yeah, I mean, I think you call it Dark Knight Detective or something like that, and you make it specifically like a Sherlock Holmes type of mystery stories that Batman has to solve and do cool Batman shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they could do it.
Yeah. Just because some of the books, right? Like, you could just follow along. Again, going back to, if you need subject matter, there's a variety of different stories and tales that you can just, apply to the HBO Max can kill it.
Well, I mean, there's 85 years of stories or something, so you got something to work with.
Yeah, and the best part is most of those trade paperbacks are available at some of you, because I can tell you this: I can go into any comic book store, well, we're on the West Coast. There is a piece of Batman trade paperback on the shelf there at all shops.
Yeah, I hope so too, Scott. I think that maybe I think there could be an opportunity for that for sure.
I do think so too.
I just wonder why, like, if it's going to exist in anime, that's great, but like there definitely needs to be some like live action with Batman where there's a detective element. I mean, hell, Detective Comics. Hello, like what are we doing? What are we talking here? Is there a
Well,
villain? Go ahead, Mr. Storm.
maybe that's what they call it, Detective Comics, and that way, you animated wise or whatever you're going to call a series that, and that way you're getting, or they call it the detective. Just give us something that it's more technical, and I think that's one of those aspects where I think you could get some really good writing from that. So I see your point in that, sir.
Yeah, I think they've never. This could be something interesting around Detective Comics is they could call it Detective Comics, and they could have like a 8-part miniseries, and every episode features maybe a different character. It could be Batman, it could be, but like it's a very like film noir, and it's focused on a story from beginning to end, like solving a crime, and then you move on to the second episode. And it could be a variety of different characters and just tell the story a different way. It could be shot for much cheaper than traditional superhero films, and you call it that. It's kind of a vintage era, so people don't expect, you know, Thor's hammer flying out of the sky, but it's like, very gritty, right? Because I think we're all accustomed now, especially the younger audience, of like superhero films. I better see a Hulkbuster destroying Hulk through a building, but no, like make it that, but tell stories of the past in an updated form. I think that'd be really cool, and maybe you call it Detective Comics. That's kind of cool.
Well,
That would
and
be kind of cool.
actually, a kind of a interesting thing to do would be make it a period piece. So you like set it in the 30s or 40s, and so you have like that original Batman style with the Art Deco and the big cars and all that, and you can do some interesting things. And his technology is still going to be way behind what we have now, but we can see like he's just a little bit ahead of everyone else.
Warner Brothers, are you listening? Are you listening? I mean, why not? Come on, you got something you could do differently, right? Let's
What
let's do it.
I can
Let's
tell you,
do it.
Rad, according to our agent, they're not. So,
They are
I can
not.
tell you
Well,
right
somebody
now.
spread the word.
Yeah,
Somebody
it'll
spread
be
the
like,
word.
no, they're not
Yeah.
listening to you or talking to Britley at all. Not the both of you guys.
Yeah, yeah. And in the DC universe, one thing is for sure unrelated to Batman, but in the DC universe is the Lanterns has been green lit, and that
Yeah.
has a detective element in it. And speaking of Tenet, we have uh, Mr. Washington as one of the featured actors in it. So I'm excited about that because that's another DC film franchise that has
Yeah.
not gone well. Those characters have not been told well at
No.
all. And maybe it's time that they do.
And the good thing too is that if you enjoyed that Watchmen series, Damon Lindelof is actually involved in this as well. And every time I tell people about, hey, well, which one is probably one of your kind of like secret best, like versions that DC did, everybody always says the Watchmen TV series is one of their favorites. It's very rare that I hear anybody saying, it wasn't. Everybody's like, wow, they really took that in a different direction. And I like the fact that it only needed one season. Sometimes they'll try to muck it up and they're like, let's go to, and they're like, leave good enough alone.
That's all you
And
need.
they have done that,
Yeah. Very rewatchable too.
Sure.
Very rewatchable. Okay. Anything else on the Dark Knight or Batman? This is fun to talk through. But I'm excited for the future of the Batman films and TV series. We're in a bit of a rut, and we're hoping for some magic to recapture the moments of the the late 80s, early 90s, and obviously Nolan resurrected the franchise. Pockets of good animation and stories, but we need someone to grab a hold of it. And is this going to be James Gunn? Maybe it starts with the Penguin, but obviously a little bit different. We'll see. But I'm looking forward to both of these TV series that we talked through.
I am too.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, before we go any further, please like and subscribe. You are watching Pixels, Plastic, and Ink on the Shadow Nose Network. If you haven't already taken a look at all the other things on the channel, lots of other content. We got Toybox Chronicles every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Pacific time. Mr. Storm and Chet Maddox talking all the things about toys, collectibles, etc. We've got a variety of other different content as well. Pro wrestling talk, rumors, news. We got pre-order videos for the toys fans and other lots of other things, including if you're into GI Joes, movies, films, all that stuff, and a lot of other humorous things. So,
Before we move on,
yeah,
just one last question was wondering if you one of the gentlemen has played the Arkham games and the Telltale Batman games, and if they're great detective moments. Hopefully, with James Gunn can have moments like that. I have played most of the Arkham games, and there are an element of detective in it. I haven't done the Telltale games. Even I know there's some Walking Dead that were like that. I haven't, but Arkham, there is stuff that you got to figure out. It's an open, immersed Gotham City. If you haven't played any of those games, the best part about it is they're extremely affordable to go back on whatever system you have right now or download it. But I think if you love Batman, you'll love those games, man.
And that was one of the craziest Jokers ever created, like that.
Yeah.
In the Arkham games, like
Mhm.
absolutely, I enjoyed those. I played them all the time. In fact, a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of the video game content, like I'm like Spider-Man 5 that just came out. There's a lot of cool stuff that you can incorporate into future films, although Spider-Man has so much content in the books and stuff.
Yeah.
But we were just talking about a couple casts ago this
Yeah.
new like Captain America video game that's
Black
coming
Panther.
out
Mhm.
that's what's it, Hydra, Captain America in
Mhm.
the like World War II, and we saw just like a little trailer of it, and it's like, oh, that should just be a TV series. What are we talking about here?
Yeah.
So yes, the Arkham games, if they could
Mhm.
translate that somehow to feature film, live action, or animation,
Yeah.
there's some money to be made for sure.
Yes. I didn't
We're
finish
not
the
here
game,
arguing.
but I was able to download, and I was riding around the Batmobile from the Adam West
Yes.
movie. That was the coolest part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I forgot what game I just was playing recently. It's the one you could be Red Hood or Nightwing, and I think
Oh,
it's
that's the Gotham Knights, I
Gotham,
think.
Gotham
Yeah.
Knights. That was fun too. I
Yeah.
mean, you don't get to
It
be
is.
Batman, something
Mhm.
about Batman, but hey, man, flying around or like jumping around the city's Red Hood and shooting people. I mean, sign me up, you know.
Yeah.
Because that's another character that really hasn't
I
been
love
done
that
really well.
character.
Red Hood.
Love that
Yeah.
character.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to our last topics of the evening, and first we'll jump into plastic. So in the world of toys, we got the San Diego Comic-Con that's up and coming come July, and a lot of interesting things in terms of exclusives that popped out. You know, a variety of different toy manufacturers now thinking, hey, like the digital con universe still exists, but the physical presence, let's reward the fans. So a lot of stuff that you can get a couple of days after the Comic Con in limited quantities, and or in some cases you just got to be there to pick it up. So with that being said, I'll turn to you, Mr. Storm, first and foremost. Do you think this is a good thing that they're redoing these convention exclusives for these bigger conventions?
One, we always try to have a plus negative kind of review on it. Plus side is this should curve a lot of the flipping or scalping of the toys, because the way they're doing it is unique. And even if you are a flipper, I don't know if you're going to beat this system. Uh, and the negative version, the minus, is that the system that they created is gonna cause a serious problem in fandom, and there's gonna be a lot of people complaining and pissed. And I think this might be the last year we see this thing done. Apparently, what they've done is there's a if you've ever signed up for Comic-Con, there's a portal. You go in it, you put your information in and everything, and then you can actually get your badges. Or if you're a professional like we are, there's a different point you press. But there's different portals. Well, apparently, on the Comic-Con website, there is a portal that you go into that's allocated for Hasbro. Now, in this portal, you can put your information in, but you have a predetermined amount of items that you can actually pick per day. So,
Mm.
and it's like, you can, but you have to put it in, the item that you want in, and then you have to put the time that you're going to go over to the booth to pick it up. You are not going to be able to just walk over to the booth and purchase it and walk off the convention. You're going to have to go in, and it's going to give you a time, because it's going to be a little thing that pops up, kind of like the way, if anyone's ever been to Disneyland or Disney World and you went to see the whole Star Wars ride, and you had to put your time in for the portal, and then you hoped that you were able to like get on the ride. But some people, it's like a lottery. Well, this is not so much as a lottery, but you're going to have 6 items that you can put in, and those 6 items, those times. Now, let's say that you pick a time slot because there's going to be predetermined times you can do it, and that arrives in maybe one of the panels that you want to go see. Well, you've got a choice. You can pick up your items or miss the panel. So, and I know when they like with the Comic-Con portal, I have friends that call me all the time. Hey, Alex, I know you're, go to Comic-Con. You've been going for years and everything. How the hell do you use this portal? that's the normal thing. Is how now for the last 4 or 5 years, the portal's been around. You've navigated. It's easy now because we've had the time. But when I first went that system, it was like, oh, this is like they had to change this inevitably. So I think it's good in a way that like the whole additive of flipping Joe is where I'm gonna get 50 of these and send his buddies in at awkward times and everything else like that. That may curb some of that. Now, can it still happen? Obviously, because these guys are pretty good, and it's going to be a situation where it's going to be. 2 is there's going to be a lot of complaints, a lot of people that's not going to work seamlessly. A lot of people are going to be going there like, well, I put my time in, but maybe their time is not correctly done right, or maybe they couldn't miss it because they were at another function or something. Because people fail to realize you can't just go sit at a restaurant at Comic-Con. It's not like you can walk right in and sit right down and eat and everything else like that.
You can sit
might
on
have
the
a
floor
wait
next to the restrooms. I mean,
well, yeah, but I'm saying you may have a wait. You may, be, you may get your, you're going to have to plan your day around picking up toys.
Well, because if you're at the wrong side of the convention hall, it could take 20 to 30 minutes to get to a booth on the other side. So
now a Wednesday night preview is not going to be a problem. Thursday is probably not going to be better. But Friday and Saturday, and don't wait till Sunday because chances are the stuff you want probably not going to be there Sunday. So I think they added, look, I've always had a problem with San Diego Comic-Con's exclusives. Every other year they've done that little portal where they give you a scan code, and that was a complete mess as well. And then you go on, you're supposed to go to a special to Hasbro Pulse and then put it in, but a lot of people were giving it to their friends, and so people that weren't at the convention were able to get the exclusives. I think the way they combat this is like really stop doing these exclusives at these conventions, because one, you are breeding scalping, because whoever buys this is throwing it online instantaneously for almost 50 to 60% higher than they purchase it. So you're not paying that much when it comes to somebody overinflating it. And 2 is, I think by the time, again, I think by the weekend and people were like, I tried to get on, but this thing didn't work. I think they're going to hear a whole bunch of complaints more than satisfy people saying, hey, this was seamless. This wasn't as bad. They got some good items. They've got the G.I. Joe Classified, Cobra Commander, I Was Once a Man. If you're into G.I. Joe and you watched the G.I. Joe, the movie, this is a direct correlation from that film. This version of the character comes in 2 different versions. The man and then the half man, half snake version. So very interesting, very cool. It's interesting exclusive. I saw that NECA has some stuff that's going to be popping up down there. I know Mattel's having their Naboo Starfighter, or now Royal Starfighter, that's going to be exclusive. So there's some really nice items down there, and I'm curious to see how Mattel's going to do this, because this is just the Hasbro part of it. I wonder if Mattel's just going to use Mattel Creations, and they're just going to have a no muss, no fuss, because Mattel Creations also, I've had items where it was day one, they dropped it, 30 seconds later it was done, and that was it for the weekend. So I understand these things do fetch a better pricing. Let's hopefully this goes without a niche, but I think it is going to go with a problem, and I think that Hasbro's going to get a lot of complaints from this.
And I noticed that they seem very expensive, more so than if they were just released regularly, because it's like that Transformers 2-pack is $75.
Yeah, now that I didn't understand.
It's 2 characters. That's it.
and
And
they're running plastic too, man. They're not like running
yeah,
metal anymore,
right. Like
So
maybe you could
yeah,
make a case for it if it was all metal, but no,
I
it's like
could.
and
And
just
then
everything.
I
It seemed way too expensive. And
hmm
also, if you're going to do an exclusive, it should maybe not be a very popular character. It should be something a little niche so that it's not like, oh my God, everyone wants this. And we only made, 1,000 of them.
when you put the word exclusive on it, it doesn't even matter because at that point, whatever niche character is the one that everybody wants first. Because they,
Mhm.
there's you and I both know this, and like there's perceived perception of the word, and it just makes it more desirable to if you say it that you can only get it here, and like there's people that feel like when they go to clubs, if I'm not in the VIP section, I didn't have a good night tonight. It's just perceived marketing that actually plays it, but that's called the fractured friendship pack that they're boasting. It's not friendship to customers, but it says $74.99. The Cobra Commander Classified Series, Once a Man version, that's coming in at a whopping. I think that's at $39.99. That's about on par with the regular prices of their Comic Con exclusive. So that part hadn't changed. And then he had the Marvel Legends series, Death Head. That they I think they dropped that they showed the images of it the other
Yeah,
day,
that's a
and
cool figure.
that's running in at now I saw the character, and this is one where this might be over $59.99. Now, if I'm not mistaken, didn't Odin cost what 60 something, right?
Yeah,
Brad,
yeah. And
yeah,
I didn't see any accessories with this. I mean, I think it
it
came with an
very
X.
little,
Yeah,
and the packaging didn't seem like it was the size of Odin and everything. So,
yeah.
um, and then a couple of interesting things on the Star Wars front. We normally let our Sorlak digest, but he's got to go with this. But we're gonna run with this. They had a Darth Maul from the Phantom Menace Black Series on his. Now I'm probably gonna get this wrong because of the fact is we don't know the technical, but he's on his floating bike. I know that's probably not what it's called, but yeah, they're releasing that. That looked kind of cool, and it has some
Mm,
soft goods to it too. So that looked really nice. And then I know that the Super Seven is decking out a couple of places. They're going to have, I think it's Mikey's Pizza shop, and then they're doing something with Dungeons and Dragons over the weekend. So
interesting.
look, I love the toy companies down there. I think they do belong in the same convention as the comics. I don't think what they do is take from one another. If you read comics, chances are you probably buy the toys or vice versa. So I think that works. So
Yeah.
very interesting. I'm looking forward to the feedback that we're going to hear from how this whole thing goes down with these exclusives.
Well, I'm sure we'll hear from the toy collectors
Oh,
ASAP, and I'm sure we'll be able to check eBay to see those prices for some of these convention exclusives. I think in one hand, it's cool to reward the actual people that are there, that are live, that are standing in line with some exclusive stuff. You think about
mhm,
10, 20 years ago. I mean, I got some San Diego Con exclusive stuff that I just recently picked up because I was
mhm.
unable to, but it would have been cool to get it at that price point. But I think
Sure.
there could be a debacle with the ordering management system. And also,
Mhm,
again, you have to worry sometimes of, look, there's resellers, that's not a problem. It's like the bona fide, like you're charging 4 times, 5 times, and that's
mhm.
where it gets a little tricky. But at the end of the day, like, we'll see how it goes. And
Yeah.
as toy collectors, we will stay really close to
Mhm.
the feedback from the fans, and I'm sure we'll have some folks live that will let us know how it's going. Maybe Chet makes an appearance in San Diego.
I would be surprised.
Now, I
And
will
for our
say, as a reseller, it is good to have the exclusive San Diego Comic Con
Yes.
packs
yeah,
because, like, I have the Lost Wave of Indiana Jones figures from the Hasbro 2011, I think it was. It was like the 2008 line, but it was these figures that they didn't produce in that line, and it was from like the original Kenner stuff. But I've got this beautiful box, and at the time it was like maybe $50 or something, and now it's like $500.
mm,
So
yeah,
Look at
wow,
Dr. Brittley name
okay,
dropping right there.
okay, okay. When is your whatnot live?
Yeah, exactly.
show?
Soon.
That's so funny. And on to our last topic of ink. And talking about San Diego Comic-Con, again, the infamous Hall H, where for years and years and years, you had all the big companies come and reveal their trailers and the exclusive footage of all the big things from Marvel to DC to, I mean, it was everything for the Comic Con. People would sleep overnight to try to get to Hall H because you would see some exclusive stuff. And we were there many years seeing that live, and it died. For a long time, a lot of people did not want to show up and do any of these things. And so Hall H was a thing of the past. And for the first time in a long time this year, Hall H looks like it's back on. And if I read correctly, it's going to start with the Deadpool Wolverine, right? That's what they're leading,
correct.
which is going to be gigantic because it's the hottest movie of the summer.
Absolutely.
So I think that's exciting for fans. They'll probably tease some things, not like, give everything away, but it creates some excitement and buzz and energy at the convention. But what does this do now that Hall H is back online for the convention itself and the comic book folks, because it has for the longest time turned into an entertainment convention. It was purely devoted to comics and collectibles. It really went to the opposite side of the spectrum, where it was all focused on entertainment, less about the comics, unless you went to Artist Alley. And then it's kind of, post COVID and stuff, even before that, they started to rein things back in. Marvel wasn't showing up, and all the big entertainment houses weren't spending a lot of money. And so it kind of reverted back to comics and collectibles and obviously cosplay and all that. And now here we're back on Hall H and some of the big companies showing up again. What's that going to do for the comic folks?
Well, again, our plus and minus version of it. I thought long and hard about this. I don't have any pluses really. I think that, here's the thing about San Diego, and San Diego has this way of doing things, and they've been clout chasing Hollywood for a very long time, and they did it at their detriment. They've always welcomed them in and pushed the people that created the convention and exactly the essence of it away from it. And they had stunts like Conan O'Brien would do a show there, and they'd have Hall H, and they have it around the corner, and there were certain things. And I was just talking to a gentleman today at a shop, and he was very right. He says, like, there are certain things, like when they have Hawaii 5-0 show up for a panel. It's a Hawaii 5-0, and it's like, he has a very good point. And I think that at one point Hollywood didn't need it, because remember, Marvel's like, we're no longer attending because we have and they're still putting on D23. Like I think a week or two after that. But see, I think in a inflation-based economy, people are not willing to spend D22 prices, because D22 will put you into M20 or M23, which will be how many months it takes you to pay your credit card off buying those tickets to go see them. So, but they're just, look, Marvel's in trouble. They've been in there for a while. The movies aren't doing well, and this is a way that they think that they're going to drum up some loyalty with the fans. And then the minute that they have that little boost up, they're going to drop Comic-Con back to earth in a couple of years. Once they no longer need them like they did before, they're going to be like, well, we're no longer going to attend, and we're not. And I think the poor vendors that were there, and a lot of people that are comic book based, a lot of guys that we know that are artists that are in Artist Alley, they're the ones that suffer. It's not Hollywood's not suffering, not in that way for the conventions, but the guys who really need the eyes and the attention on them, they're not going to get that. And I think that that's something where, it always frustrates me when Comic-Con does that, because that event is created for comics and the comic book community. And you've just done a very good job of ignoring the individuals there who really sometimes need those commissions. A lot of artists show up at Comic-Con because they need it, because look, drawing comics is not a lucrative business. There's hardly anybody making millions of dollars that is drawing the comics, so every dime helps. But when you have Hall H that's taking up those situations and taking traffic away from the floor, and you and I and Rad know how expensive those hotels are and meals all the time. Everything's super inflated. So, it's just if you make the trek to get down there, it's very expensive. You got to make your money back. And the kind of stuff like Hall H's surprise announcements this year. And they announced it literally less than 3 weeks away from the convention. So that's going to tell you how much thought was put back into it. It wasn't like this some 6 months ago. They said, hey, we think it was the last minute. Like, I think I'm looking at some of the advertisement numbers and everything. Maybe we should do Comic-Con. That's what it seemed like. So, Dr. Brentley.
Yeah, just because it's the biggest convention of its kind, it sort of became a pop culture convention instead of what it started out as, which was smaller. It was because I remember when it was literally just comic books.
Yep.
And yeah, the companies with more money can come in and have their way with you, and when they're done, they leave. And you as the people putting it on, you kind of just have to accept it because that's where the money's coming in. You're probably not trying to hurt the smaller people, but they're not bringing in money, so you just push them off to the side, and you don't really care about how this entire thing started in the first place.
Well, I'll tell you something. No, I think they do know they're pushing the little guys, but Scott says Hollywood should really have their own convention. We've said that for a while, and then bring Comic Cons back to its roots. I will absolutely agree with you, Scott, on that one. That's something that we preach right there because, like, again, these individuals, and like we know a lot of artists that are in Artist Alley, and it's like it's their biggest convention of the year. And like the last 2 years, they were really. I was hearing like there was such a good buzz. They were like, there were more people on the floor on Saturday that was coming down Artist Alley. And then the guys were like, I was doing like double and triple the commissions I've ever done at shows. And then just to have that happen, like I think on Thursday when they announced this, I was talking to a good friend of mine and he was just like, wow, man. Like I almost wish I could basically cancel going to San Diego. So that's the effect that it did. It knocked people's morale down because they know it's like, yeah, everybody's going to want to see Deadpool because they're going to have some kind of con exclusive item or something that they're slinging as some kind of extra footage, and it's just a disrupting factor. So I totally agree with that one.
You didn't need the initial or additional marketing for this film.
I don't think so.
Like you don't need any. But look. I think for a first-time Comic-Con goer, people that show up and want to stand in lines and see all the things, buzzworthy stuff, it's cool.
Oh, yeah.
But I think, as you said, it definitely impacts the folks at the core of what the conventions were about. Thankfully, outside of San Diego, there are a lot of other conventions that are more focused on comics and collectibles and creators, and those things still exist. And I think we've talked about one in particular in LA Comic Con that's a bit smaller, and that might be something where the Pixel Plastic Inc. and Shadow Nose Network crew attend this year in October in Los Angeles, but more to come. Well, gentlemen, it's been a really great Dark Night for us all, and we thank everyone for tuning in. And as always, we want to kick it off with thanking our affiliates and our sponsors. And we'll start with one of our affiliates. All right.
With shipping, it is cheaper than the actual price of the item with our code and the free shipping.
And look, hey, this only helps the channel grow. We reinvest the money back into the stream. So if you are going to buy a toy or a collectible, and it is something that is available on that side, why not use our code and you get some exclusive benefits for using the PPI code. And outside of Entertainment Earth, we also have to recognize the mom and pops.
We do.
And to do that, Mr. Storm.
Yeah, always my favorite part after our editor really killed it and everything. It's like, wow, man. It's like we didn't even ask him to do that. He's just like, let me just knock that out. That's what I love about the guys who work behind the scenes. It's like you might just see our three faces up here, or in most nights four, but there's a bunch of people working behind the scenes that we got to give some credit on. So thank them for that. Toys versus Games in Wilmington, California. The reason why Toys versus Games is essential into space is that now we've seen with the Target and Walmarts, they're pushing out the small toy stores. It used to be that neighborhood toy store that you went to and you were able to have a friendly face, that you were able to chat it up for a little while and purchase something. Try doing that inside of a Target and Walmart. It's take the product, leave, get out of the store. You want the engagement, you want the people to sit there and actually care about you. It's like the Cheers thing where everybody knows your face and knows your name. It's like that's exactly what you do when you go to small mom and pops like Toys versus Game in Wilmington, California. Not only do they have old collectibles, they have some newer items, and the beautiful part about it is Tony and his wife are such really nice people that it's just a pleasure every time you go in there. It is Shadow preferred store. And we always use this line. They've been rocking since day one with us. So we appreciate Toys versus Games.
Awesome. Very cool. And hey, we appreciate you all jumping in. Scott, thanks for the comments and commentary. We love it. For those of you who don't catch us in the live stream, feel free to comment as well on the YouTube channel. And then just a last call out to all the content. And first off, we want to thank our sister channel, the Sarlacc Digest Podcast YouTube channel, for all your Star Wars content. Mr. Storm was a featured guest last week, and live stream Wednesdays, got the Fallen Fett Chronicles at 6 p.m. Pacific time on the Fallen Fett YouTube channel, and then Toybox Chronicles, Mr. Storm and Mr. Chet Maddox, 7 p.m. Pacific time Wednesdays here on the Shadow Nose Network for all toys, collectibles, news. And then immediately following that, the Sarlacc Digest Podcast at 8 p.m. Pacific time on their podcast YouTube channel. So hey, Wednesday nights are packed, man. 6, 7, 8, boom, 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 man. You got all things to watch. I don't know what's out there in the streaming world on Wednesdays, but I can't imagine it's not as exciting as a Wednesday night full of toys, collectibles, Star Wars, pop culture. There you have it, Mr. Storm.
Yeah,
making things happen.
And I'll tell you something too, man. If you have an opportunity, because if you're watching our show and you haven't watched the Sarlacc Digest, look, first of all, it was intimidating as heck to go over to their channel because I knew I had to get my Star Wars stuff up. I had to remember that Jedi were bad, Sith were. Wait a minute, that's totally wrong. That's it. Jedi.
Well, not if you've been watching The Acolyte.
My notes have been all messed up, but no, they have a wealth of knowledge. If you are into Star Wars and you're on the fence about what's the show that they get to, positive atmosphere, no matter what the topic is. A lot of great guys. They laugh, they have a good time. But it's just a really nice bunch of gentlemen. It was nice to come over there and see them. I catch their Wednesday shows at least. It's really nice to be paired up with such a great group of individuals. And if you're into Star Wars, it is a must. You've got to watch the Sarlacc Digest podcast.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, lots of other content on the channel. Again, we invite you to do it. Pro wrestling, pop culture, toy reviews, etc. We appreciate, again, subscribe, like the channel. We will see you next week, Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific time here on the channel with another version of Pixels, Plastic, and Ink. Have a great rest of your Friday. See you next week.